live to eat or eat to live. So living to eat, of course, means that you're you're bound and totally um, living with your animal soul and its desires. And this is, the human condition. The human condition is that we have desires that are coming from the animal soul, from Sitra Achra, a negative place. Negative place because it's all self-absorbed. It's all my desire for myself, what gives me joy, what gives me pleasure, what is self-fulfilling for me. And in areas that are permissible, it's one thing, right? Of course. But now we say, no, 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 eat to live. Now, eat to live, even in this, there's different dimensions. Eating to live, meaning recognizing that food is a means to giving us strength that we could do good in this world, that we could fulfill our purpose that we were created for, that we could do a mitzvah, we could be attached to the divine, do what God needs from us. In this, there is then a way that we can truly rise beyond the human condition, and that is not allowing the natural human desire that we have, for whatever it might be, to say something that makes me, that, might be, like, if it's something that's beneficial for another, so that's sort of, important. But if it's permissible but not necessary, and it's just, not um, a waste of time, but, it's a mundane matter, and you hold yourself back for a minute, not saying it, or you hold yourself back literally 1 minute from eating something that is kosher, that you're going to make a blessing on. You're going to eat it anyway, so why not eat it a minute earlier? So the brilliance over here is because you're holding yourself back from yourself and not allowing your natural desire to rule and dictate over you. They tell the story of Napoleon. That Napoleon was got up in the middle of the night and he was thirsty. He got himself all dressed to go out to the well and take some water. As he draws up the water to take a drink, he thinks to himself, actually before coming to the well, he thinks to himself, before drawing the water, me, Napoleon, I have to give in to my desire of thirst? What is this? My thirst is going to control me? Me, Napoleon, not going to get what Napoleon wants? So he's in a quandary. What's he going to do? So he draws up the bucket from the well, pours into a cup, and then pours it back into the well. In other words, he got what he wanted, and then give in to himself, into just the desire of having. In the 60s, there was they're called the marshmallow test. Perhaps some of you have seen this. They placed in a room a child that was 5 years old or so, a marshmallow on a plate, and they said to him, you can eat this now, but if you wait, I don't know if it was 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you will get 2 marshmallows. And they filmed this. They left the room, so they weren't there. And this was filmed, and you could see, some kids immediately ate the marshmallow. Other kids, they were able to hold out, so they got 2 marshmallows. Others were like going like this, trying to cover their eyes, so they shouldn't see the marshmallow, so they could hold out and get a second marshmallow. All different. It's very cute. They followed these children into adulthood, and actually for many decades, and they saw that those who had the capability of self-restraint were much more successful in life than those who weren't able to have self-restraint. So that's all on a human dimension, which we can understand, and it resonates with us because after all, if I have to give in to my desires are not objective truth. They're not objective good, and may not even be good at all. So if I can restrain myself, I can be better than myself and grow into something greater than my limited, uh, needs and desires that might be just in the moment. The Alter Rebbe here is taking it to a different dimension, though. That's true on that human level. There's no question that if the more we can have that self-restraint, the greater that we can have achievements in life, because we'll be able then to focus in on the greater good, on something that's more, of greater value and importance. No doubt, no doubt. But the Alter Rebbe is saying here that actually, two things. One is that even doing just a little bit over here, what it does on the spiritual realm is phenomenal. It's like, the shade down here moves 6 inches, but the sun moved thousands of miles. So a little bit that we do over here affects the spiritual realm, the divine, in such an awesome manner. So first of all, that's a great empowerment. A great empowerment. That's above. Below, the fact that I sanctify myself in this manner will mean that even though only in this manner I'm sort of like, restraining myself, but I will actually become holy through this, little by little. By being able to do that, I will become a very lofty individual, someone who is not limited or defined by the human condition, and I'll become holy. Holy means separate, beyond, above the norm, beyond the human condition, the godly condition. And this is a huge and great empowerment for each and every single one of us. And what my suggestion would be is that, we all have challenges in life, and in order that we can overcome those challenges, sometimes we don't have to deal with the challenge directly, but just with the self-restraint when it comes to something like food, pushing that off a bit, or it comes to something else in life that we have a desire for. And again, a permissible desire. If it's not permissible, obviously, you're just not allowed to do it. But if something's permissible, and by that, pushing that off and doing a mitzvah at that time, studying, like we're doing learning now, right? And pushing off breakfast because of that. Wow. Divine above what we accomplish is amazing. And what we do down here, that we become sanctified, holy. So this is interesting, that holiness, perhaps we would have thought prior to this class, is like, you do a mitzvah, you're holy. And it's true, of course, because you're attached to God through doing a mitzvah. But here we're getting something beyond that. So of course in a mitzvah you're going to be attached to God, so therefore you're holy. But here we're talking about just delayed gratification, having the self-restraint purposefully, so we could subdue the negative side within me, that it shouldn't be that which rules me so completely. And through that, that makes me holy, because I'm rising above myself. Because, being myself is being myself. That's not holy, because who's my natural self is my my desires, my animal soul. Again, doesn't mean it's bad things. My animal soul might want to do good, but it's self-directed, it's self-absorption. So to not, the way we can get beyond being self-absorbed is through this. A way is through this. Now, be careful with it. So, oh, look at that. I pushed off breakfast by 15 minutes. Huh, I'm holy. Don't do that, because then, boy, did you get to put it off and demoted from any sense of holiness. This should be done very discreetly. This is not for show, you know. So, and one of the challenges with someone who's an observant religious Jew is that, there is this Yetzer Hara, this inclination that we have, that we all want to put on a facade and show our better side to people, right? That's not being authentic, obviously, and we have that desire. So for the Hasidic Jew, I daven with great fervor, and uh, I don't do pizza, I don't do ice cream, I can, don't publicize any kind of holiness. You don't do something because you're trying to have self-restraint. Fine. Make it between you and God and leave it there. That's really important. All right. Questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, sharing. If anybody wants to share something, remind your Rambam today, 1 o'clock. Those who missed last night's class, you can get it at, you could get it. You could get it, yeah, at TanyaRabbi.com. You can get it there. You can also get it on my YouTube station. All right. I don't see any questions here. Does Montreal have good pizza? Oh yeah, great pizza. Great bagels, great pizza. I mean, this is the capital. Michael, please share.
I only wanted to say that the marshmallow test, the man was Walter Mischel, and he was Jewish, and he fled from Austria after the Nazi occupation, and his experience from the suffering people who lost everything while the Holocaust brought him to this research, and only 30% from the children couldn't achieve this test, that they didn't took the second one, and the other children who didn't, who took the others, had a higher rate of that the marriage broke, that they got alcohol problems or many other problems. And therefore we train our children that they control their emotions very early in the life. I've read the book. Therefore.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Michael. Yeah. So yeah, like you say, because if you say, especially we live in a culture today that what's on your mind, share it. What's in your heart, be authentic and share your feelings. You're feeling down about your spouse. Well, share that with your spouse. You're feeling something about your friend. Just be honest, and share. Maybe not. I guess, like Michael said, those people don't have self-restraint, so their marriages broke up much more readily, and because self-restraint is ultimately meaning it's not about me and my feelings. So the important key over here is the mistake Western culture is making is that, well, I'm not being authentic. What do you mean you're not being authentic? Authentic to what? To your feelings? Your feelings is what makes you authentic? Or is it you have a soul, a godly soul that makes you authentic? What makes you authentic is your godly soul, and if you're true to your godly soul, well, your godly soul isn't feeling these these negative feelings. It's your animal soul that's feeling it. So you don't have to give in to your animal soul's feelings and desires that you want to, to share about your great hurt and your great pain. Know that that's where it's coming from, and maybe you could restrain yourself from that. People have a difficulty with that, and that's what creates a lot of problems in marriage. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't ever share. It doesn't mean that's, but the fact that we can work on that self-restraint, and then what happens is, I didn't have to share that feeling at that moment. You know what that means? I could work it through. I give myself time to work it through, and because I could work it through, that negative feeling is dissipated. So then I don't have to share it anymore, and I'm being authentic. You know why I'm being authentic? Because I'm reflecting my real self, my godly soul, instead of just, feelings that are coming from the animal soul. They're not coming from a godly place. So thank you, Michael, for sharing that. Yes, very true. Andrew, how can we give a gift of darkness to God as a gift? Because God has none. God created all. Yeah, but it's not his inner will. He created darkness so we could give it to him as a gift by transforming it into light, right? Light. He's light. He's life. He's not darkness. He creates a darkness for us that we could give that as a gift, ultimately. Davida, your reading in the Maggid Mesrich was very strict on self-restraint and self-punishment until he met the Baal Shem Tov. So how does a Beinoni trainer know where the lines are drawn? What happens if we border on self-punishment instead of just stopping our Yetzer Hara? Very good question, Davida. Thank you. Yeah, we have to be careful. Thank you for bringing that up, Davida. It's not about self-punishment. It's about self-restraint. So it's not about punishing yourself. It's about just holding back of yourself, of your animal soul's desire. That's what it means. And again, what I want to make sure that we have clarity, we have to do this a whole day. If you did this once a day more than you did before, or once in the morning and once in the afternoon and once in the evening, you held back for 1 minute on something, 5 minutes on something, whatever it might be. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Okay. Alan, please share with us. We have some other people.
Hi, Rob.
Hello.
Interesting discussion. I agree that the self-restraint is really important, but there's also a value in being authentic, and I think that the path that we need to follow isn't just putting our focus on restraint, which I look on as Gevura, but being more on the Tiferet side of being everything in balance. It's just, I think that I think as Jews, Hashem, what he wants is he wants balance from us. He doesn't want necessarily us to go to one side. Chesed without Gevura at all, that's problematic. Gevura with, that's kind of extreme is also problematic, So I think that personally, I think I tend to try to keep myself in the middle and balanced as much as possible.
So yeah, exactly what we said. That's why I said don't try to do this a whole day, of self-restraint. If you did it once in the morning for 1 minute, right? You held yourself back. By the way, that for me, for example, how I practice it sometimes. Maybe you don't know me, but I like to share. I like to share my thoughts. I like to share, the wisdom of Tanya, and sometimes I gotta hold myself back, and let someone else share, like Alan is sharing or someone else is sharing, right? So for me, sometimes that is, Everybody has what's their Yetzer Hara. So mine can be that I like to share and share, but sometimes you got to hold back, restrain, and maybe let another share. So so absolutely, Alan. There's the balance over here. That's why the Alter Rebbe didn't say this, but I'm suggesting that we be careful with this restraint, right? But nonetheless, what we have to recognize is we do have the midah of gvura. We don't have the midah of gvura, which means restraint, actually, power of self-restraint. We don't have it there merely as a, it's like, the goalpost, Don't go past this. It's not merely a goalpost. It means it's something positive to use in our lives. So here the Alter Rebbe is giving us the positivity and how we can use it in our lives in a healthy manner. So it is very healthy. So it's not something that we should minimize in any manner. We shouldn't make this, as you said, Alan, the only thing that we're doing, through our day is restraint. No, we have to do chesed. We have to, embrace others and so on and so forth. Remember, we're learning Tanya. We're in chapter 27. We're in an order of things in order that we move forward in understanding how we can deal with the challenges in life, that the curveballs in life that come our way that don't allow us to be full of joy, full of simcha. So these are some of the things that the Alter Rebbe is giving to us as tools. So it's a very healthy tool that we can use. And as you said, and I agree with you completely, that we have to have it in a balanced manner. So absolutely noted.
But thank you so much for that clarification. But it's interesting when you were talking about chesed, you were talking about embracing others, and chesed also is embracing yourself.
I don't know what you mean. Embrace. It depends what you mean embracing yourself. We're going to get into that later, by the way. That's going to we're going to have to wait for that for chapter 31, 30, okay. 30, 33, okay. 32, 33. We're going to speak about that and what that means.
No problem.
But absolutely, you're correct in the notion of it. What does that exactly mean, and how does that look? So we're gonna get there. So what's interesting is that we're dealing more with like the gvura side, which is true because what are we talking about over here? We're talking about things that could get you down. What could get you down very easily is that we constantly have a mind that is, thinking thoughts, and quite often the thoughts are not positive; they're negative thoughts. So that's how this chapter began. And we don't want to get it down because that's the Alter Rebbe said, no, don't. You should actually be happy because you're going to be able to fulfill a mitzvah of pushing away the negative thought. And now he's taking it from the negative thought on how we could subdue the negative nature that we have, or the self-absorbed nature that we have. Let's call it, and that's what the animal soul is. It's a very self-absorbed, and to fulfill my desires is a very self-absorbed thing. So he's giving us a tool on how we can rise above that. So I don't see it in a negative way at all. And that's why I'm unsure, Alan, that you shouldn't see it as a negative way, and therefore you think there needs balance. I agree with you that we need balance, and we shouldn't, go away from this and now a whole day I'm going to be working on my self-restraint in every opportunity. No, that's not balanced. That's not good, and it's not healthy, and you're gonna drive yourself nuts. You're gonna go you're gonna go to the insane asylum from that. So don't go that way. That I totally with you, Alan. that totally makes sense because there's other midas, there are other attributes that we need to engage with in our day. But remember, this is where we're at right now in the learning, and what we need to do is incorporate today this message. The another message will be incorporated another day, and of course we incorporate this message today with everything that we've learned previously, and which we're growing steadily and surely in our Oops, a second. Oh, there we go. And our closeness, and to Hashem, and in fulfillment of what He created us for. So thank you, Alan. That was really good. Appreciate that share. Um, BNS.
Hello?
Yes.
I'm sorry if this is off topic, but I just wanted to ask, is it true that when we used to be in Egypt, that like when we were slaves, that we were allowed to rest on Shabbat?
To rest? Yes. Oh, as slaves, were they? That's a good question.
Because I heard it somewhere, and then I told somebody today, and they said it's not true. But I thought I read it maybe in Rashi or maybe it's what's it called, Midrash or something.
You know what? I'm not certain.
Okay.
I'm not certain. I'd have to look. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I think I missed. Give me a moment here. John, does the delay of permissible things subdue the Sitra Achra by the way that the klipas noiga while suppressing the evil impulse by the way of the impure klipas? Yes. Yes. Very good, John. Yeah. When you subdue a negative thought, that negative thought is negative. It's evil, meaning it's shalosh klipas atmeas, right? It's complete negativity. So subduing that, you're subduing that. When you subdue the desire to eat breakfast, a kosher breakfast that you're going to make a blessing, and you put it aside for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever amount of time, right? A small amount of time for the sake of not giving in to your desire, that's klipas noiga. Yeah, that's the klipa that's a mixture of good and negative in it. Absolutely. Thank you, John. Okay. Anybody else? Instagram, do we have any questions? Don't see anything. Amazing discussion as always. Natalie.
Hello. Yes, I wanted to ask
Sure.
about the. I mean, we always think about eating things in moderation. What about eating things that are not necessarily important, like they're not the main meal? You know what I mean? Like, for example, like ice cream or any of those other items that we like to eat but aren't exactly important. You know what I mean?
So yeah, I get you. I get you. Excellent question. So everybody is on a different level in their divine service and where they're holding. So it'd be hard to make a blanket statement, right? So, for example, eating ice cream on Shabbos, there's a mitzvah of the pleasure of Shabbos. So if you would eat ice cream then and having greater pleasure of Shabbos as a result, so then, then there's a greater place for that, shall we say. To eat ice cream just merely for one's pleasure, hey, all of us will do that. I think the key for me, actually, it's interesting you mentioned about ice cream, and so I'll share you. I'll share you from my teacher, Rabbi Khan, a blessed memory of the Rebbe's Chayzer. So he shared as following. By learning Tanya, so what will the Tanya do that? So another person's going to eat ice cream, And even if you learn Tanya, you'll also eat ice cream. The difference is another person will eat ice cream and not think twice about it because, hey, but when we'll eat ice cream, well, no, it's not the real me. Right? This is not, what I'm really all about. So in the moment, you're going to have the pleasure. Listen, we are Beinoni in training, which a Beinoni actually would not have the ice cream. The Beinoni would not have the ice cream if it was merely for the pleasure of. If it was, Shabbos, different thing. You're at a wedding, and it's part of the celebration, the dessert. So, but even then it would be in a way that this is not what I'm all about. I don't live to eat. I eat to live so I could serve God. So, yes, we all will eat something that is just because of the pleasure, and we're not doing it for, it's not essential like Natalie, like you said. It's not essential. And yet we will. That's I mean, it's okay. It's a reality. That's where we're at. What hopefully from learning
because,
Tanya.
We're all human beings. We like to munch on chips, watch Netflix. We're human beings at the end of it.
Yeah, so I'm saying we're going to do that. But the point that I want to bring out is that don't define yourself by that. Oh, that's who I am. I'm just a regular person who, enjoys chips and enjoys watching a movie. That's why, no, that's not who you are. If you're a Jew, you're a Jew. If you're a non-Jew, so you're a non-Jew. As a servant of God, you're here to do the service of God that God created you and needs you to fulfill. And that's who you are. And right now I'm doing this. Okay, I'm not defining myself. This is not the real me in this moment of just of self-indulgence. And that actually is really important, because what happens is we identify with the self-indulgence because that's my pleasure as being me. It's not you. It's not the real you. And the famous story, there was a chassid that came to the Mittler Rebbe. The Mittler Rebbe was the son of the Alter Rebbe, the son of our teacher, the Alter Rebbe. And back in those days, 200 years ago, the people all wore long coats, Hasidic Jews. And he was living off in a town where he kind of got more modern. He was wearing a short coat. But when he would come to the Rebbe, to the Mittler Rebbe, he would wear his long coat. Finally said, I'm not being authentic. I'm not being real. I just come here and wear the long coat, and really I wear the short coat all the time. So he decided that's it. Next time he's going to the Rebbe, he's wearing his short coat. He's going to be authentic. He comes into the Rebbe, and he breaks down and he feels, Rebbe, I wasn't authentic till now. I was wearing a long coat. Really, I wear a short coat back at home, and that's who I am. So Mittler Rebbe says, and I thought it was the opposite. I thought when you're here with your long coat, that's authentic. And what you're doing over there, that's not the real you. So yeah, we might watch Netflix and eat chips, and we may do that more often. That's our short coat that we wear, and we may do that more often, right? Than learning Tanya and doing other good mitzvahs, and therefore we think, oh, that's authentic. That's the real me. It's not. Don't fool yourself. Make sure that the Tanya that you're learning at least gets you to that message, that the real you is the long coat, is the Tanya that you're learning, is the tzedakah that you give, is the Shabbos, is the mitzvahs that we do. That's who we are indeed. And with that, I must say goodbye for today. Our conversation will continue. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. I thank you all for joining and wish you a wonderful, great day. God bless you all. And thank you all for your questions.